All right. So we are going to start our second practice here. And today we're going to focus on the common violations. I start this screen. If you have not done so already, the one on the left is our YouTube channel. And people who have not been assigned games, the number one question that we keep on getting is, how do I get assigned games? Is you want to complete the team registration form so we have all your updated information. We know what level of games you are wanting to work this year, and then that way we could place you on a team. All right, so if you're watching on YouTube, all right, that's the main thing to get on future games is to complete that team registration form and watch these practices. So that way when you do get out there, we're doing consistent terminology. So today's terminology is violations. All right, so last week or 2 weeks ago, we said what makes a great crew. So now today, I'm interested to hear your answers of what makes a great official. So who could give me examples of a great official? Go ahead, Randy. Professionalism. There was a talk at the Kearney Summit of everybody can be a pro. All right, so it's not just professional athletes. It's professional garbage people. It's professional police officers. It's professional firemen. Professional officials. All right, so be a professional. What's another thing that makes a great official?
Dress the part.
Dress. All right, so I think we said in the preseason team meeting, dress for the job you want, not the job you have. All right, so whether I'm out there working a third grade girls game or I'm working a men's college game, I'm probably going to be looking good in my dress. All right, I want to dress the part. All right, well groomed. All right, so people always ask, how about facial hair? You don't see too many people with facial hair at the highest level, but you can have facial hair in high school sports. You just want to have it trimmed, groomed, and presentable. Okay. What's another thing that makes an official great?
Communication, clarifying calls.
Okay. Communication. So we not only calls, all right, but before the game starts. How do you feel when you're showing up to a gym and you're working a 6-game set and you're contacting your partner, you're calling your partner, you're emailing your partner, and you get no response back? Are you kind of nervous? Are you like, oh man, am I going to have to work these 6 games by myself?
Yes.
Communication is very important. All right, a simple text message, simple email, simple phone call. All right, part of that team meeting is how do you want to be communicated with? And that's how I'm going to try to continue to communicate with my officials on my team. So not only calls, but communication with your partners. What's another thing?
Knowledge.
Go ahead. Knowledge. If you've never officiated before, do you think we expect you to know that rule book, case book, mechanics manual in and out? No, not at all. All right, so if you start your first basketball game with 1% of knowledge, only thing we have asked officials to do when you're new, learn one new thing every single game. Put something in that knowledge book. We're hoping these preseason meetings have given everybody the foundation of the common fouls, of the common violations, to give you the basics of the basics. But then now as you start working, you ask questions. What did you think about this call? Am I standing in the right spot? Am I making correct signals? Because you only know what you know, and unfortunately, unless a captain is working with you or a captain is observing you, your officials aren't going to just openly, voluntarily give you information. We typically are afraid to hurt somebody's feelings. All right, so ask questions. New officials, ask questions. That's how you gain knowledge. All right, ask questions. What's one other thing? Positioning. And then hustle. I tell you what, we'll start with positioning. there's X's in the mechanics manual, but that's not where you officiate every single play. That's just where you start a play. And that goes back to the knowledge. My daughter plays youth basketball, and my wife does everything she possibly can not to yell at officials. But when an official stays at the opposite free throw line, when the ball is on the other side of the court, she's probably going to yell. All right, so positioning, it's not even being the exact perfect spot, but get, 3-point arc extended. Get to the baseline before the players. Boxing the players, stay wide. All right, so people always be like, oh man, people are so unsporting, they're yelling at us. Don't give them a reason to yell. They don't yell over judgment. Judgment is what gets them over the edge. It's all the things that we could control leading up to that one judgment call. And then the last one, hustle. All right, so we do get some requests from administrators, from coaches, of officials not keeping up pace of play. And if I get proof that they can't keep up with the pace of play, it's very hard for me to ignore that request from the coach, from the tournament organizer, from the athletic director. So if you hustle, by the way, everything on here, what makes a great official, how much of it is in your control as an official? All of it. All of it. All right, so take control of your officiating career, whatever it is. If you want a lot of games, take control of it. If you want to work the highest games, take control of it. Be a great official. Take advantage of this education we have today. Our goals is no different than it was with fouls. We're going to show the importance of rule terminology. So whether you think it is a travel, your partner does not think it's a travel, whoever's call it is, as long as you could explain it through terminology, we're going to get through some tough situations. How to use terminology to prevent unsporting behavior. We know what to say to de-escalate a player. We know what to say to de-escalate a coach. And then develop consistency throughout team, PSOA, in communication. So right now we have 186 basketball officials actually on the team. All right. Imagine if 186 officials explain travel all differently. Would that be confusing to coaches and players? That's what we're trying to avoid. So no matter if they have myself, Jason Ford, Matt Krause, David Christensen, we're having the same words said to these coaches, players. All right, so here's the 10 common violations we're going to cover today. Jump ball, be ready to officiate. All right, we have to be ready to officiate from the tip. Closely guarded, we're going to talk about 6 feet. And there's actually spots on the court that help us. What is 6 feet? Throw in designated spot restrictions versus they get to run the end line restrictions. Backcourt, last to touch. We hit it hard last week. If you only have the 3-point principle in your head on backcourt violation, you got to get rid of that. All right, it's not 3-point principle. 10 seconds, legally touched. When we're going to talk about the 10 seconds. Free throw, who could enter on the release? Who could enter on the rim? Travel, pivot foot is by far the most important thing. We're going to go into what is the pivot foot? How do we get the pivot foot? Illegal dribble, stop, start. 3 seconds, scoring advantage, and then out of bounds, last touch by. I will say, from my perspective, when it's 2, 3, 4 players and out of bounds, I still think out of bounds is the toughest call in basketball. Okay, and then we're going to give some tips on how to get more of those out of bounds calls correctly. All right, so jump ball number 1. Now, I did not start a Kahoot. All right, so as we go through these plays/questions, what I'm probably going to have is people in the room. If you have a violation, I'm going to have you raise your hand with an open hand, just like we would in a game. If you don't have a violation, just keep your arms down because there's no violation in the game. You just keep your arms down. All right, so I have these ready to go so we don't have advertisements. All right, sound is off. All right, so here is opening tip. Jump ball. If you have a violation, again, raise your hand. If you don't, just keep your arm down. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. All right, so we got 15 people that have a violation. I'm going to show the play one more time, then we'll get into the terminology. One touch, bam. All right, sweet. So the correct answer is yes, that is a violation. Does it go? Yes, it does. Good. So when we get to jump ball administration, both feet within their half of the center circle. Boop, boop. All right, so that I put a picture of the center circle there. All right, so this is the center circle. Both feet of the jumper have to be in that center circle. Non-jumpers cannot move onto the restraining line or move positions around the restraining circle. All right, so when we go back to another video, there are some players that hang out by the circle. They are restricted when they can move. They can't move until that ball is legally touched. Players away from the circle can move wherever they want, whenever they want. But the ones by the circle cannot move, all right? Ball cannot be touched by the jumpers until it has reached the highest point. Did those two jumpers wait until it reached the highest point? All right, so we're good there. Officials, remember, tip, do not start the ball down here. Start it at least at your head level and push it upwards to avoid that violation. Now the jumper can leave the restraining circle until the ball has been touched. There are some players, they don't go and get the jump ball. They literally let the other team get it without jumping. If they do that, they can't leave that circle. They have to stay there in the middle. Now the jumper can catch the ball before the jump ball ends. Now everyone see the violation from the video? All right, so that one player jumped and caught the ball. What ends the jump ball? Jump ball ends when the ball touches the floor or one of the 8 non-jumpers. Or an official. Okay? So that ball was touched by a jumper, if not both jumpers, and then the jumper caught the ball. That jump ball has not ended. Okay, so that's why that was a violation. And then the other one was neither jumper can touch the ball more than twice. All right, so they can touch it and tip it again. They can't touch it 3 times. You're looking for 3 touches by one jumper.
Has that been always taken this way?
Yes. Yep. So a lot of times that's what coaches and fans yell at us. They hit the ball twice. Cool. Sweet. Thank you. All right. It's more than twice. All right. Any violation in this case is loss of ball. Possession arrow is set after possession is first gained. So that's actually when we actually hand the ball to the thrower. All right, so that possession arrow is not going to be set until I hand that ball to the thrower. That is when they gain control of the ball. Then the possession arrow will switch to the opposing team. Okay, so now we have another play lined up. Jump ball number 2. This is a kind of fun one because we didn't cover where players can line up. So we have number 20 and 8. Right now, these 2 players look content and happy. Right now.
Not for long.
Not for long. All right, see now 20 wants to get in between the 2 gold players, which by rule he is allowed to. All right, so gold can't just get shoulder to shoulder and not let the opponent in like an inbound play. All right, on an inbound play, first come, first serve. On an opening jump ball, adjacent spots, if the opponent wants to be between these two players, he is to be allowed between these two players. All right, so that's when the official's saying, do you want to be between these two players or not? So by rule, they are allowed in between those opponents. Not on an inbound. Inbound is first come, first serve. But a jump ball, opponents are allowed to be in between each other. All right, so that's not a violation. That's just us being ready to make sure everyone's correctly lined up before we start the game. All right, so violation, raise your hand. No violation, keep your hand down. We're going to play it one more time. All right, so how many players or officials here had that jumper touch the ball 3 times? Okay, so we have a 50-50, right? The real judgment, so there's 1, right? The blue player 1. 2, there's the judgment. Who touched it the 3rd time? Which official do you think is going to have the least opportunity to get this call right? Not the C, the one right in the middle. Because he's going like this, he's closing his eyes, don't elbow me. So this is what we're talking about, be ready to officiate. So this official, which is going to be U2, opposite table, he's going to have the best look at it. So if you do have it, boop, 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 3 touches. All right, and then now you're going to award the ball to the goal team. If you're not sure, the best thing to do when in doubt on a violation, do not blow your whistle. We call it don't have a cheap loss of possession. We have to know on a violation if we're going to have the penalty of that team loses possession. All right, so if you had your hand up, as long as you could say, in my judgment, that jumper touched it 3 times, correct call. If you had your hand down, in my judgment, I had that goal player touching it and not the jumper that 3rd time, correct call. It's the terminology that's most important.
Do you have to get that right away, or can you kind of wait to see how they go after it?
So for a jump ball violation,
Well, no, because like as the play plays out,
yep.
Somebody's going to go for it and try and save it, right? So Gold tried to save it there. So obviously, that's telling me he thought Gold hit the ball on the 3rd tip.
You think these players actually know that rule? You must be out of your mind.
I'm just asking,
Yeah.
I'm just asking if you use that for like a kind of like a delayed call, I guess. Is what I'm saying.
If you're 100% sure that a violation took place, I would call it right away. If you're not sure, I wouldn't even have a delay violation. I just wouldn't. I wouldn't even call it. Because at the end of the game, throughout the game, let's say there's no alternating possession arrow until the 4th quarter that actually matters. And now that coach who yells at you for not calling the violation, hey, aren't you glad you got the ball right now? So, but yeah, I wouldn't let it play out if you're 100% sure. If you're not 100% sure, let it go. All right. Yeah, I don't want to give up out of bounds. Yes, sir.
Sean, if the jumper touches the ball before its highest point, it's a violation. What does that result in? A re-jump or the other team getting the ball?
Yeah, so great question. So the question is, if they do violate by quick tipping it, that's a violation. Whichever player quick tipped it, it's going to be the other team's ball. And I'll always go at the division line at that one. All right, so I'm not going to go front court, back court status yet. So violation, the offended team's ball out of bounds, and then I'm not setting the possession arrow until I actually give the thrower the ball.
Some weird universes. Those 3 tips you're talking about, does it have to be in a row?
Nope, does not have to be. It just has to,
They can hit it, I can hit it, I can hit it. That's 3.
as so long as it doesn't touch a non-player or the playing court. So once it touches the playing court, and once it touches a non-player or an official, now I could grab it because it's not a catch because it hit the ground. All right, that catch is no longer that definition of a catch. All right, so true, false questions. With the shot clock in Nebraska, a player can dribble the ball for an unlimited amount of time. If you have true, all right, do not raise your hand. If you have false, which means we would have a violation, raise your hand if you have a violation. All right, so everyone has watched the online rules meeting. Great job. I think that opened up 2 days ago. All right, so in Nebraska, they have not adopted that rule. So we are still having that 5-second closely guarded count when it comes to dribbling the ball in the front court. So one player cannot dribble around the court for 35 seconds. So now, closely guarded, while in the front court. All right, so you can dribble the ball in the back court. That's a whole different rule which we're going to get into. Has to be in the front court. No player shall hold the ball for 5 seconds or dribble the ball for 5 seconds. Interrupted dribble. A count should not start, and it is terminated. All right, so once there's an interrupted dribble, so the defender contacts the ball, all right, I am probably going to be giving this signal. All right, it's a no control signal. It's a loss of control signal. It's an interrupted dribble signal. If that dribbler gets the ball back and continues dribbling, I'm also going to go to the next level. If I start with my right hand, which I try to do whatever side of their dribble and I want the dribbler to see, now I have an interrupted dribble. Now I'm going to switch hands because it's a new count. If they're holding the ball, I'm going to go with the hand away from where they're going to pass the ball because I don't want this hand being in the passing lane. And then if they start dribbling, I'm switching hands. Okay, so I'm going to switch hands there for interrupted dribble. 6 feet is a very important part of this rule. All right, so 6 feet is foot to foot. It's not, they go like this. All right, sometimes they're 8 feet away and they reach out their hand a foot or 2 feet out. It's foot to foot. Now another thing, officials, what you want to use is the semicircle, the free throw line to the 3-point line. That is 6 feet. So that 6 feet is a lot bigger than most people think. All right, so I call it in my head actively guarding. But you don't have to force them to get so close they're just quote-unquote body contact. If that defender is in a defensive stance, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. If they're just standing there and they're happy that they're holding the ball, I'm probably not going to start my 6 feet closely guarded count. So actively guarding, give them the benefit of the doubt. Anyone know why this rule is the way it is? What's the intent? Keep the game more exciting. Do not let one player control the game. The ball move. Right? There's nothing really worse than the ball not moving. If you ever been part of a game where before the shot clock, one team had the ball for the whole overtime period, it's not exciting. Okay, we want that ball moving. So if we do not adhere to this rule, a game could get boring. It could get frustrating. All right, so that 5-second closely guarded helps the game move and prevent that frustration. All right, another thing that always comes up, when do we use this signal? And we only want to use it when they lose the 6 feet. So if they're never at 6 feet, we're never starting the count, it's good. So what we want to do is the closely guarded, boom, they now leave the 6 feet. Now we're going to give this signal, they're outside 6 feet. So that's when you want to use this. Not that they never got there, but they got the distance beyond it. All right, so now that lets the defense know, all right, I got to get back up within the 6 feet and get that start counted again. And once again, I'm doing this, lost 6 feet, I'm switching hands. All right, that is another time I will switch hands. Another when in doubt. When in doubt, it is not 5 seconds. All right, so a trick that I learned, especially 10 seconds, but 5 seconds now, especially if you have shot clock, go to your microwave. Start the microwave, turn your back, count 5 seconds. It is amazing on how many times you count 5 faster than it's really 5 seconds. Okay, so when in doubt, it's not a violation. You'd rather have it be 5.5 seconds than 4.5 seconds. Again, no cheap loss of possessions. All right, no cheap loss of possessions.
Sean,
Yes, sir.
question. Are we supposed to start chopping every single time that a defender is within 6 feet of a ball carrier?
Great question. The answer is no. You don't want to be the you don't want to be the 1 second chopper. All right. So what I will do majority of the time, I'm going to see how the defense is playing, and I'm going to see how the offense is moving. If the offense truly now takes 2 seconds, I'm going to start my chop, but I start on 2. All right. So then that's a great question. So I don't want to be the 1 second chopper. You're just being noticed way too much. All right, so use the 5 seconds when you need it. All right, be seen when it's important, and then that brings me to another question that people have asked me. Oh, do you start your count out loud? I don't. Some people do, just to let them know 2, but that's it. I would not go 2, 3, 4, 5, and we'll go over that with the throwing as well. You don't have to, unless it's really important time, loud gym, and they might not see you counting. I do not use that verbal cue that I have started. All right. All right, throwing question. All right, true or false? So if you have a violation, raise your hand here, because violation is open hand. If you don't have a violation, keep your hand down. True or false? A player cannot jump, dribble, and lift their pivot foot during a designated spot throw-in. So I'm throwing it in. I have a designated spot. I'm doing this. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. If that's a violation, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, so that question is false. They can dribble. They can jump. There is no pivot foot on a throw-in. All right, so what a designated spot throw-in is, it's an imaginary 3-foot box. And so long as they have 1 foot in that 3-foot imaginary box, they are still in the box. So yes, you can. There is no pivot foot. Coaches watching, I love doing this as a coach. I always had my player dribble the basketball right here out of bounds. Because guess what the defender does a lot? Reaches and contacts the basketball. All right, so now we have a technical foul. All right, just make sure they don't dribble on the court. All right, because now we have a throw-in violation, which we'll get into. All right, so, but they can jump. They can move both feet. How far back could they go? Yep.
I had that same call last year, so I did.
Yep.
West Side and Central Boys, and someone said to me that the guy moved too much. I was like, there's a box.
Yep.
And he just went from side to side, and he was still close to me. It's like, that's a violation. I'm like, it's not a violation. He's within that 3-foot box.
Yep. So, and that's the important part, the terminology. In my judgment, they had 1 foot remaining in that 3-foot designated spot box. That's why I don't know why they say designated spot, because it's actually
That's just
a designated box.
one of those questions that they were saying.
Yeah.
You think of just spot. And then,
Yeah. Or some officials say, don't move. You can move. All right. Remain in the box. If you want to instruct something to the thrower, remain in the box. They might look at you weird, like, box? What? Yes, sir. So the defense touches me, That's an intentional foul if they touch the player. Touch the player, intentional. Touch the ball, technical. All right, so we broke this rule down, 9-2, into provisions. Throwers shall not leave the designated spot. Imaginary 3-foot box. They can move. So officials don't, again, to avoid confusion, do not say don't move. They can move. They can. Ball shall be thrown directly into the court so it touches a player or court. And what this means, it cannot be bounced past so it touches outside the 3-foot box. So a lot of times this happens underneath the baseline. I bounce past it across the lane, and instead of it touching in bounds first, it touches out of bounds outside the 3-foot box. That's a violation. That is a throw-in violation. Ball shall be passed within 5 seconds. This is, again, I have a delay on my start. So people always ask, which hand should I count with? All right, so if I give the ball thrower here, I do not use this hand. All right, this hand will get in the way, especially if they're moving. All right, so what I'll do is I hand it, I raise this hand, and then I am now chopping with the outside hand. Every thrower knows when they get the ball, the 5-second count starts. It's not like a dribble. They don't know when our 5 seconds starts with the dribble. All right, so now if I'm on this side, I'm going to hand it, I'm going to raise my hand, and I'm going to use the 5-second count away from the thrower. There's not one true mechanic, right, wrong. The reason I do that, I just don't want my hand to get in the way of a throw. That's why I do it that way. The other thing I see a lot on throw-in provisions, there's 3 lines we want to bounce it. Sideline and end line. And the reason for that is our perspective has to be a lot bigger when we're inbounding it, end line going full court, or sideline when they could throw it all the way in the back court. All right, so we got to widen up, so I bounce it, sideline, end line. If it's underneath the basket, baseline, hand it. I put it right in their gut. I don't try to slam it in there, but literally if they're not grabbing it, have them feel it, because at that point, has anyone have a thrower refuse to take the ball from you? All right, and what they're doing, they're trying to gain an advantage to see what the defense is doing. So if you put it in their belly and say, I'm going to drop it, they're going to get it. Okay. Now, if they don't catch it clean, and it goes like this, do we have a violation yet? No violation, because they had not had clear possession of it. Okay, so when in doubt, they did not have control over it. Just redo it. But to prevent that drop, literally hand underneath and put it in their belly so they don't drop it. They know it's there. Okay, a lot of bad stuff prevented on that. All right, throw-in.
John, some players won't get behind the line because they're waiting for a play to set.
Yeah, so you have this, right? So if the offense delays the game, what do we have in our tool set which we could use? Delay game warning. Okay, so defense is ready, everybody's ready, your officiating crew's ready, and they're refusing after you ask them politely, number 33, could you please step out of bounds? No. Okay. Delay game warning, delaying the start of the play. After I've asked them politely to step back, I have not had to use a delay game warning to adhere to that. But if you have that very egregious player refusing, we have that delay game warning. The team is not allowing the ball to be put in play. Oh, great question. So that's out of a timeout. Okay. So out of a timeout, the team refuses to come out of the huddle, and so officials put the ball down and start the 5-second count. Please, if there's a warning left, use the warning. Use a delay game warning. Hey, coach, on the second horn, could you please have your players on the basketball court ready to play? Now, if they've already used that warning, that's when you want to put it down on the ground. Because if you don't put it down on the ground, what's your only other option? Technical foul. All right, so now you could go to the coach if they're upset. Hey, coach, I had two decisions to make. I could put the ball down, and you're at risk of losing the ball 5-second violation. Or since your team's already had a warning, I've tried to work with you to get your team out of the timeout. It's a technical foul. So now you lose the ball and they get 2 free throws. I didn't feel like they deserved a technical foul. But don't set that ball down until you have already used the warning. Use the warning first. Okay? Good question on that one. What's that? That's only during the timeout. Yeah, because that's what teams will do. They'll stay in that timeout long. All right, so if we have a violation here, again, raise your hand. This is the universal signal violation. If you have a legal play, keep your hand down. All right, so we're going to play it one more time and see if anybody raises their hands. What's the most important part of the judgment on this play? Right there. Inbounds. So we have an out-of-bounds player. The throw-in is now over. Because why is the throw-in over right now? Yes, not at the disposal, and it touched another player. Okay? So now, did he establish inbounds prior to touching the ball? All right. So that's your judgment. Okay? So if your judgment was, yes, that foot was down prior to the touch, this is a legal play. Because a throw-in starts when they get possession of it. Throw-in ends once it touches a court or player.
And, it needs to be, just 1 foot has to be down. It doesn't need to be 2 feet. If it's, the second foot has to be up from out of bounds.
So right now, again, very tight. Is that left foot touching out of bounds still or not? But as long as 1 foot is in bounds and no other body part is touching out of bounds, they have inbound status. All right, so he's clearly not out of bounds. I would say that's inbounds. So this is, and they called it legal. Okay. Display settings, duplicate. All right, so some more provisions. Thrower shall not carry the ball onto the court. So when we say carry the ball onto the court, can they step on the line? Yes, because this line is out of bounds. What they can't do is step over the line. All right, because that's a lot of times, coach, they're on the line. Thank you, coach. That's what I have too. We have the same judgment. Now the terminology, when they're on the line, they're not on the court, coach. Once they go past the line, now they carried it onto the court. So that's what that rule is talking about there. Thrower shall not touch the throw until it touches another player. We just saw that play. All right, touches another player, then he can touch the ball. Ball shall not enter the basket before touching a player or become lodged. All right, so this is an alley-oop play. So if they throw it up to the basket for an alley-oop, and instead of it going to a teammate, it goes to the hoop, that's a violation. It's not a score. If during that alley-oop it gets lodged into the ring, it is not alternating possession. It is not a held ball. That is a throw-in violation, the other team's ball. So that could be very important in that situation. Because if a shot gets lodged in the ring, what do we call? Held ball. Held ball. Where if it's a throw-in, all right, now we have a violation. So see how that could cause confusion to coaches. Because all the other times they see it, it's usually on a shot. Okay, so that's that terminology we have to explain to a coach. Coach, if it was a shot, you would be correct. This is a throw-in, so this is a different penalty for that violation. All right, backcourt violation. True or false? When a defensive player tips the ball, the offense can no longer commit a backcourt violation. So if you have a violation, if the defense tips the ball, can you still have a violation? Raise your hand. All right, so I'll give you the scenario. Defense tips it. I'm the offense. I'm dribbling it in the front court. Defense tips it off my leg, goes into the back court, and I get it. All right, and if you raise your hand, a violation, this is a violation. All right, this is different in every other level of basketball, but not high school basketball. All right, so we always give that tip signal, right? People give the tip signal when the defense tips it. Do not give that tip signal when the defense tips it until it actually goes to the backcourt, and they are the last team to touch the ball. Now you want to give the tip signal. Because if you give the tip signal, defense tips it off my leg and go like this, and then you come and call backcourt violation, we just gave two different signals. That's what will escalate a coach. All right? So only give that tip if the defense was the last one to touch it and it went into the backcourt. Now that signal is saying anybody can retrieve that basketball. All right, so Rule 9-9 backcourt. A player shall not be the first to touch the ball after it has been in team control in the front court if the player teammate last touched, or was touched by the ball in the front court when it went to the back court. So dribbling. If I am advancing the ball on a dribble, I have one, I have two. Actually, I have all three, don't I? Even though this foot is up, that's why we're talking about get rid of that three-point principle. We do not want to say three-point principle. All right? I now have front court status. So if I go backwards, now we're in bad spot. However, if I'm straddling the line like this, now I could bring that ball back and forth because this back foot is still where? In the backcourt. So that's the dribbling, all right? Dribbling. Passing, player location. So here I am, I'm in the backcourt. My teammate is clearly in the front court. They jump from the front court, catch it in the air. What court status do they have? Front court. With their feet off the ground, they have front court status because that's where they were at. So now when they land in the back court, what do we have? Violation. That's when the ball's live, by the way. Now let's change it to a throw-in. Does the ball have any court status right now? So my team is not in control of it front court, back court. So now my teammate from the front court jumps up, catches it, lands in the back court. What's the first court status? Back court. Okay, so a lot of different situations with a lot of different results with the same rule. All right, so that's why when you're in the moment, when you talk about delay, call, how many times have people like, I think that was backcourt. I don't know if it was backcourt. Nobody's yelling at me, so I'm not calling anything. I do it all the time. Okay? You have to know it's a backcourt violation for you to call a backcourt violation. Right? And just because people are yelling at you, if you know you're correct, just be able to explain it to the coach why you're correct. And if you don't know, and nobody's yelling at you, don't bring attention to it. All right? Don't bring attention to it. So try to avoid that three-point principle. All right? Because once you get front court status, it's going to be hard to get back in that back court legally. 10-second question. True or false? Only the trail official can call a 10-second violation. So if you think this is true, all right, raise your hand. Only the trail official could call a 10-second violation. If you think this is true, raise your hand. Okay. The answer is false. All right, so, and the reason why it's false, we'll get a little bit deeper into it. In the state of Nebraska, what varsity classes now have a shot clock? All of them. So the trail official is no longer, if there's a shot clock, that trail official is no longer using the 10-second count. So now if that trail official is looking at a trap right in the corner, is that trail official able to see the clock? Not able to see the clock. They don't have a count in their head, so any official, when it gets to 25 seconds, violation. Yes?
I think John Dolliver said he still wants us to chop.
For 10-second violation? No, the only time we chop is when we're underneath. So if there's 29 seconds left to go in the corner, now we're doing the 10-second.
Because they turn off the shot clock.
Or if you have an interrupted backcourt.
Yes.
Ball gets kicked out of bounds by the defense.
Well, kick, we reset it to,
No, I'm saying.
Oh.
Knocked out of bounds.
okay, gotcha, yep.
Now you're sub 35. Now you got to go to the game count.
Because you don't know, what was it, 31.7, was it 31 flat? I will say the one thing, if when you get out to gyms, there's two types of starts. There's starts when it goes directly to 34, and then there's starts when it goes 35 a little bit longer, and then switch to 34. We are not to change what we're doing. If it reads 25, it's a violation. Okay, so they have 10 seconds to get it in the front court.
Sean, we'll still have a lot of games that won't have the shot clock. So in those situations, you want it still just to be the trail official.
Correct. Yeah, if there's a 10-second count, let's say there is 29.2 seconds left in the game. All right, we're not going 19.2 violation because there's nothing that told us that clock operator started on time. So we have to rely on that 10-second chop. Okay. Let's see here. So I put in there JV and below. Did a lot of JV teams use shot clock last year? I know in B they didn't. I can't imagine they will because it's an additional person to pay for the shot clock. So again, varsity games, shot clock, game clock's over 35, no visual signal. And when that's going on, any official could call it. Yep. Different game situations will have me do different things. If time is of the essence, so it's a 1-point game and there's 37.2 seconds left, and the shot clock doesn't properly start. If I know 37.2 went to 35.2, I'm setting the shot clock to 33, and I'm going to inbounds the ball. But I'm going to try to correct it as fast as I possibly can without a... Yep, correct. There's so many scenarios running through my head, right? Because you don't want to put any offensive team at a disadvantage either. So I typically try to wait until they do get past half court. And if it's off, then I'm going to correct it without putting anybody at a disadvantage. All right, moving on to free throw violations. True or false, the players in the marked lane spaces must have their entire body within the vertical planes of the marked lane spaces. So what this is asking, is having the shoulders, head, arms outside the marked lane space, is that a violation before the release? If you have the arms, hands, head over marked lane spaces before the release, as a violation, raise your hands. All right, the answer is false. The only thing they actually need in the marked lane spaces, feet. All right, 1 foot has to be within the marked lane space and that dash. All right, so people always ask, like, why is that dash there? Well, that dash is there so I'm too far away from the marked lane space now. 1 foot has to be even with the dash. You can't have both feet beyond that dash. You could have one, but you can't have both. Now the question is, all right, if this isn't a violation, what happens if they play patty cake, patty cake? All right. Yeah, you stop the game and you say, young men, young ladies, please keep your hands to yourself. All right, go back to kindergarten. Please keep your hands to yourself. All right, because if you let them do that, it's going to escalate. But it's not a violation. You just correct the behavior. No, well, they can, but once they impede the opponent, now we have a foul for holding. Oh, why not get both of them on that one? No, don't get both players on. Go up to the scoreboard and see which one has least amount of fouls. Give it to that player. All right, game management there. Gotta be careful what I say. All right, so provisions again. This free throw attempt has to be in the semicircle. All right, so people, I love coaches at the end of the game. They're behind, and when they go like this, they're like foot touches the line. As so long as they release that ball and their foot is not beyond that line, Coach, I didn't see it. I'll look for it. I did not see it. When we say shoot, it's the release of the ball. There's a lot of times I'll go like this. Well, if that ball's already released, it's been shot. Now, don't let them go run and get a rebound, but we're not nitpicking, was their toe touching that line when they went up? Coach, that shot was released by the time they touched that boundary line. Release the ball within 10 seconds. I've never seen it, but it's just a visual count to the side. You don't want to do this when that shooter is shooting because you don't want to distract them. So it's just a visual count to the side. Like I said, has anyone ever had to call that?
I've seen it in men's rec league games with running clock.
Oh, great job. Sweet. Never even thought about that. Thrower shall not fake or cause the opponent to violate. If you want to study film, if a shooter does this every time, it's legal if they do it every time. I've yet to meet a high school player do that. I've seen it at a different level, but not this level. But they can't just fake and shoot. Just like if I'm in the mark lane space, I can't fake that I'm entering to cause my opponent to violate. Whoever fakes, that's who the violation is on. Opponent shall not distract the shooter. Game management. All right. How many times? All right, there's the shooter right here. And it's the first shot. Right as they're right here. I got a shooter! That's distracting. If that ball goes in, all right, I'm probably going to go up to that player. Hey guys, do you have shooter this time? Yeah, why? Well, please do not yell it when they're shooting, because if they miss it, that's when I'm calling the violation. So I'm going to call that disconcerting the shooter violation if the shot is missed. The other thing they'll do is they'll clap right as they're shooting it. If somebody's right on top of the arc, all right, if they're standing right there, as a center official, I'm getting closer. I want to hear if they're saying anything to that shooter. All right, and then the other thing that we have to make sure, the players outside the three-point arc, they have to be above the free throw line. And this is a new one slipping into the game. This bench personnel, guess what they can't do? They can't disconcert the shooter either. All right, so I've seen bench players yell when it's the opposing team shooting at that basket in the first half. Okay, so they are underneath the same jurisdiction when it comes to disconcerting the shooter. It is called a free throw. All right, don't let the players disconcert. Try to prevent that distracting the shooter instead of calling that violation.
So I got a question for you. So I've had two different answers for you. So you can't go across the free throw line.
Correct.
When you're boxing out. So you go in and you make contact with the player and hit him. So do we go violation or is that a foul?
So both answers are correct. So the two answers you got are both correct. All right, so here I'm the shooter. if they just contact me, violation. That's the violation, the contact. If they contact me and displace me, foul. So the displacement is a foul, the contact is a violation.
So depending on if they're in the 1-1 or so it's just if they're just at 3 team fouls, either go to the side or you shoot free throw.
Correct.
So they get another shot?
So if it's a violation, they would get another shot. So again, let's say this is the second free throw. Okay, boom, release. They contact me. It's a violation, but if it goes in, what do we do with violations? We ignore it. So it's a delay call. I shoot. They contact me. I miss it. Violation, reshoot.
So in the first one, well, we don't have a 1-1 anymore. So
Yep. Very good.
Now, just to be clear, it's got to be pretty egregious.
For displacement, yes.
Displacement or contact, by simply, by definition of contact, if I come up and I touch you.
Well, if you're in front of the free throw line, you're
I'm
fine.
not
But
gonna
like
go
if you cross it,
Here,
Yeah,
if I make contact, because one's going forward, I'm leaning a little,
I'm gonna let that go.
it's
Yeah.
this.
that's what I'm talking
Yeah.
about. Going across the field.
It's, I'm going across, I'm going into their space, and I'm contacting them. And then now, so David just said that. When the ball touches the rim, now it's just whatever a legal box out is. They could legally box them out when the ball hits the rim. All right. And then we talked about the true-false question. So this foot can't enter before the release. The knee can, the arm can, the shoulder can, the head can. It's the foot that cannot break the vertical plane. Again, if it is the defense violating, delay dead ball. If it's the offense violating, automatic violation right away. Automatic violation. Traveling. True, false. A player can move while in control of the ball up to 10 feet without dribbling the basketball. All right, so a player has control of this ball and they can move up to 10 feet without dribbling the ball. True or false? If you have false, raise your hand. If you have false, raise your hand. Okay? Those of you who have true, who could think of the scenario where it could be true? Go for it, David.
You jump forward and then you release a shot.
All right. If you could jump 10 feet forward, you could release a shot. If you gather the basketball with your feet off the ground, pivot foot, 1 foot up, maybe that's 10 feet without dribbling. Go for it.
You could be on the floor, gain possession, and slide the whole length of the court.
That's the biggest one. All right, here, loose ball. I gain possession of it. I am so sweaty. Or the floor is that dusty. Or there's that much salt because it's going to snow a lot this winter. And they just slide 10 feet. How many times you hear travel? But they could slide as long as they don't roll. Okay, so it's going to be hard to jump 10 feet, but yes, they could do a long jump without dribbling. Depending on when they do the start of the Euro move, did they have control of the basketball? Did they not have control over the basketball? They still are allowed that pivot down, pivot up, and as long as they don't bring that pivot down. So there are times where a lot of space is created. So that's how people always ask, this isn't the NBA. Well, an NBA stride is a lot farther than a high school player stride. So that's why it looks like, man, they just went from the three-point arc to a slam dunk. They can. It's one long step out, one dribble, pivot, dunk. All right, so they have very, very long strides. All right, so chart. I try to put action. So the player action. Pivot foot is key. So when we talk about terminology, when you call a travel, you want to be able to explain to the coach, right foot, left foot. Which was the pivot? Right foot, left foot. So the first one, player catching the ball with both feet off the ground. Do I have a pivot foot yet? No. Once I lift, all right, now my left foot's the pivot foot. All right, so if, like, I literally, when I'm officiating, I tap my leg. And when I tap my leg, it's because I am getting the pivot foot in my head on when they catch it. All right, so if I catch it, either foot could be my pivot foot. So now I could pivot this one. Now it's my right foot. All right, so officials, when they catch it, look at their feet. That's how you get the pivot. Player stopping with both feet off the floor. All right, so here I'm dribbling. All right, see how I stop with both feet off the floor? Either foot now is my pivot foot. All right, you typically don't see that, but that's what that rule is prescribing there. Player stopping with one foot on the floor. So here I go. I stop. Right foot on the or left foot on the floor. That is not my pivot. I stop. Right foot on the floor. This is my pivot. Whenever they gather the basketball, see the basketball first, then get to the foot. So officials that you work with, anyone have an official they always call travel? It's like, man, why does that official like call so many more travels than everybody else? It's not that the thing they're doing different. They're finding the feet first before finding the ball. Find the ball, then find the feet. That's the trick to really get travels correct. Find the ball, stopped, caught, gathered, then find the foot. Next one, attempting a shot. So here I am, 1, 2, my left foot's my pivot foot. I could lift my pivot foot on a shot. I could lift my pivot foot on a pass. But now here I am, I'm going to pass it to shoot it, and then all of a sudden, oh, nope. I can't do that on a dribble. All right, you cannot lift your pivot foot until the release of the dribble. All right, so people ask us those questions. Well, they always lift their pivot foot on a shot. Why can't they lift their pivot foot in so long as the ball's released? Because it's a dribble. It's a different rule. All right. Another one where they get is the start-stop. Boom. Everyone see that? A lot of times they'll do that because they're going to think they're going to shoot. Then all of a sudden, oh no, I'm going to go. I call it the track start. They cannot lift their pivot foot until they release the basketball on a dribble. So once they gather it, find the pivot foot. It's really quick. Find the pivot foot. Safe. Falling. Perfect timing. Any part except hand or foot that touches the ground. All right. I know it stinks sometimes, but a player will be in the act of falling. They gather it and then they complete the falling. That is still a travel. All right. So if they're in the act, they control it, they continue to fall, travel. Okay. Now they could act. Now we're good. I stopped the fall with my hand. Now we're good. All right, Greg. So I have control of it. I set the ball down. Boom. So boom here. As long as it doesn't leave the hand, we're good. Yep. They're good because it's not intentional. And then I thought you were asking like, here I am, I'm falling. To prevent a travel, I'm going to let go of it.
Oh, yeah.
That's legal as well. Because I gave my opponent the opportunity to get that loose ball. Did I look athletic there? Yes, sir. So here, go up. So this is my pivot foot. Good, because it's all about this pivot foot. So if they have that up and under, up. This is my pivot foot, left foot, pivot foot. I'm going under. My left foot's my pivot foot. As long as I don't bring this down, I'm good. Which official's going to see that?
Hardly any.
Trail official's going to see that. Because every time I'm a lead official, when they go up, guess where my eyes go? All right, I'm going up, I'm watching this. When they're coming down, I am following that basketball the whole entire time. It's the trail official that will most likely see that travel if it's travel. All right, getting up and rolling. So when I am on the ground, my body is my pivot. So if I slide on my belly, guess what has to happen? Stay on your belly. Okay, once I roll, now I have a travel. Attempting to get up, I can, Jason, you have to confirm this because I know I said this wrong last year. If I am on the ground like this, I can go like this. All right, yeah, as long as the cheeks, is that what it is? So I could do a sit-up. I can't attempt to get up. I can't get my buttocks off the ground. All right, so they can. Oh, yeah. So as long as I have my dribble, now I could get up. You could get up with the dribble. All right, clear as mud, right? If there's any tips and advice out of this whole section with travel, okay, find the gather of the basketball first, then find the foot. You'd be surprised on how less players actually travel because the lower the level, the longer it takes them to gather it. The higher the level, they delay the gather on purpose. So that the quote-unquote Euro move. That Euro move, that first step, they have not stopped the dribble. They have not caught the ball. They put it here until they take that next step. So now this is their pivot. Boom, now they lay it up. So they're dribbling it away from their opponent on purpose. So find the gather and then find the foot. Illegal dribble. A player can dribble the ball with two hands. So if a player dribbles the ball with two hands and you have a violation, raise your hand. Dribbling the ball with two hands, violation, raise your hand. All right, you guys let me know if this is an illegal dribble. All right, so that's why it's not two hands, it's illegal dribble. It's I start my dribble, I ended my dribble, now what can I not do? Dribble again. So it's that start, stop. All right, so yes, I can, with two hands, dribble and then go up. So that's the power dribble. Okay. What I can't do, two hands, stop it, two hands again. I can't two hands, stop it, one hand. But I can go. So I did start with two, but then what did I continue with? One. It never stopped. All right, so that's illegal dribble. Now exceptions. The first one is a try for goal. So here I am, I'm going, I'm dribbling, I literally make an attempt to shoot it, and I airball it. I catch my airball. What is that called? A shot, rebound. And what could we do after a rebound? Dribble again. All right, that is not an illegal dribble. So even though I stopped my dribble, I shot it, I'm able to dribble it again. Another exception, touch by opponent. So that's that interrupted dribble. So I'm dribbling, my opponent touches it, sweet, I gather it after the touch, I start my new dribble. Because an opponent touched it, again, I'm going to do this, especially if there's any doubt, did the defense touch it? I'm going to give defense touch that ball, interrupt the dribble. And then the pass or fumble has been touched by another player. This is when I have not completely caught the pass. All right. So here I am. I dribble it, and it goes off my defender's feet. All right. I could go pick it up and start my dribble again. All right, so pass or fumble that has touched by another player. Please do not call it double dribble. Illegal dribble. 3 second, I love this one. A player can never remain in their own lane line for more than 3 seconds while in team control of the front court. And by the way, we're not going by philosophy yet. By rule, a player can never remain in their own lane line for more than 3 seconds while team control in the front court. Anyone have a violation if somebody literally is in the lane for 4 seconds, as clear as day 4 seconds, as clear as day 5 seconds? Can somebody legally be in the lane for 4 or 5 seconds? Yes, absolutely. All right? So the answer is false because they can. So a player shall not remain in the lane for 3 seconds inside their lane. So we're not talking about the other side of the court. In control of the teams in the front court. So shot goes up. Is there team control? No. So that 3 second, it's gone. All right. So we always get 3 seconds. And I usually yell 3 shots. Okay. So it starts over once that team gets control again. The next one is for a player having been in the restricted area for less than 3 seconds. So here I am. I'm posting up. 1,000. 2 1,000. I get the pass. 3 1,000. I'm making a shot for goal. 4 1,000. As long as I'm immediately going to score, we are going to allow them to complete that scoring opportunity. All right, so that is the allowance, and that's exactly what it says. All right, we are giving the team an allowance to be in that lane for longer. All right. So then what, I thought I put it in there. The trick is, I did, 3 seconds prior to the player gaining control. So if you're going to call it, call it when that ball's in the air. All right, so 1 1,000, 2 1,000, boop, 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 3 seconds. Because once they catch it, we are going to give them now the allowance to make an immediate move to score. All right, they have to make an immediate move to score. They can't just continue holding it for 5, 6, 7 seconds. Okay, so shot goes up, reset. Allowance is there. What's the best way to prevent this? Talk. Lane, keep moving, watch your feet. Because it's as simple as this. If they're in, lift, out. Lift, out. All right, that's all they have to do. They just have to lift it up and now they're out. Okay, so talk to those post players. All right, out of bounds. The ball, true or false, the ball is out of bounds when it is rolling along the top of a rectangular backboard. So pretend this is a rectangular backboard. Is that out of bounds? True or false? If you have a violation, raise your hand. A ball rolling on top of a backboard. Who has it as a violation? Raise your hand. Cool. What must the ball do? Must go over. All right. Hit a support. All right. Hit an overhead structure. And so now we're going to go, again, the out of bounds rule is very convoluted and long. We're going to try to put it in layman's terms. So first player. A player is out of bounds when they touch the floor, object on or outside the boundary line. All right, so I'm inbound right now. So if I touch the line, I now as a player am out of bounds. If I touch an object, a chair, out of bounds, I'm out of bounds. A scores table, I'm out of bounds. So even though I have 2 feet in, I can't lean on the scores table. All right, there are some gyms that are that small. I'm glad you said that. That's a new rule this year. So now here I am, I'm near, and my teammate or my coach is preventing me from falling out of bounds. I am now an out of bounds player. All right, so I can't gain an advantage. I still want to see the play that caused that rule change. But go for it. Same thing. All right. I am out of bounds. It's a person or object preventing me. As long as I gain an advantage, I'm an out of bounds player.
I think the play that made that change was inbounding the ball. The inbounder somehow fell. Ball is in play. I have the ball. You're on the floor. I come and I help you up. Now I'm out of bounds because I've touched you out of bounds.
And then it goes up, then it touches you while inbounds,
I have possession of the ball.
and you're helping me up? Oh, that's pretty nice of you. I don't think I've ever seen that. Yes, sir.
Is it a correctable error if your partner blows a whistle because it hit the ball to the backboard?
Yes and no. We have an inadvertent whistle. So if we have an inadvertent whistle, the ball's loose, we now have to go to alternating possession arrow. So it's not a correctable error, but it's an inadvertent whistle. It's then depending on who has the ball. Yeah. All right, so ball is out of bounds when? Touches a player, floor, object on or outside the boundary line, touches the backboard supports, so that's the wires, usually the wires, ceiling or overhead equipment, or over a rectangle backboard. Anyone know why it says rectangle? Yeah, so there's fan shapes.
You don't see too many in Nebraska.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Okay, so what if like the ball is in bounds and the opposing team's out of bounds and they touch it in bounds? Who's that out?
All right, so the ball is inbounds. Your opposing team is out of bounds. And the opposing team touches the ball.
Yeah, or you.
All right, so if they touch the ball, it's going to be out of bounds on the out of bounds player. If they touch just the player, we're nothing, because did I gain an advantage by my opponent touching me? Now, if it was out of bounds, they actually gained the advantage. So we're going to play on. So ball, now it's out of bounds on the player touching the ball, out of bounds. Player, play on. So now we're going to go causing the ball. The last player inbounds to touch the ball, or be the last player touch the ball before the ball goes out of bounds. Pretty cut and dry, right? We're going to try to make that nice and easy. I'm inbounds. Who was the last player to touch the ball? Me. So it's boop, out of bounds, white ball. So I'll always be the black team right now. All right, I was the last player who was inbounds to touch the ball before it went out of bounds. I gotta love this one. Now we have an out of bounds player. I touch it. Now who's it out of bounds on? Me out of bounds. All right, because that is now the exception is except if a player's out of bounds, touches the ball like that gentleman asked, now it's the out of bounds player who's out of bounds. Okay. Big thing with out of bounds. Raise your hand, say a color. Boop, white. Boop, blue. Did I ever use a different hand? Boop, red. Boop, green. Say the color whose ball it is. We'll get into simultaneous here in a little bit. How many times you raise your hand, and what do the players do? They stop and they react. Sometimes the easy ones, all 10 players go the other way. Oh, that's awesome. Boop, I have that way. Boom. All right. Sometimes, boop, off him. And that guy who it was off of is looking at you waiting for your decision. It's off of him. Okay? You have to learn body language on out of bounds calls. Use the cues players are giving you. It's a half second, all right? And you will learn throughout a game the players who are not giving you reliable information through a game. Everyone understand what I'm saying there? Players that don't give you reliable information. So, boop, I don't know, and that unreliable players give me information, I'm going the other way. Right? They have given me way too much unreliable information. But then you could switch it. A player has come up to me, hey, good call. Yeah, thought you were going to miss that one. Good call. Then there's going to be a time where, boop, I don't know. And that person's like, our ball, our ball, our ball. Boom, I'm going to give it to them. Right? It's very hard for kids to cheat in spontaneous times. It's very easy for them to cheat if they always do it. All right, so that's sort of that psychology of it. Simultaneous. If you truly don't know, I go, boop, George, help. Help, George. And George's like, oh. All right, we go alternating possession. All right, if you truly, truly don't know, you're asking for your help, and your partner doesn't know, simultaneous, boom, held ball. You want to avoid that at all costs. If you have to do that, you'll know when you have to do that. There are situations to do it, but you just don't want to do that too often. All right, have an idea, use cues, use your eyes as best as you can. But again, on out of bounds, new officials, boop, white. Then if you get uproar, it was off 44's knee, white ball. Give the story after. All right, don't go off white, blue ball. Because if you say white and then point blue, you'd be surprised how many people think it's going to be white ball. All right, so only say the one color. Last violation. I actually did get this in here. Just in case, it's the same video as last week, and we do not call this enough. There it is. So we got a rebound, and here it comes. Wham! It's the swing and miss. All right? So when they excessively swing their elbows and miss their opponent, that is a violation. That is a loss of ball. All right? And people asked last week of what is excessive. It's when the elbow goes before the shoulders and the hip. If everything goes at the same time, we're good. But if they lead with the elbow, excessively swinging it, leading, and they miss, violation. All right, so if you want to avoid really bad bloody noses, to use the new rule where they get 20 seconds to deal with blood, call that first elbow violation, and that will prevent the future use of the elbows. All right. Consistency on resumption of play. So now we have violations. Where the heck do we put it in? If it's in the backcourt. Yes, sir. Where do they contact them? I'm going to go flagrant foul. Yeah, if it's contact face, flagrant foul. Chest, I'm going to go foul. Backcourt. If it's the backcourt, it's the spot nearest the violation. Minus the technical foul, I am not going to inbound the ball right at the division line. So if it's in the backcourt, I'm going to make sure that designated 3-foot spot is in the backcourt. If I could avoid a backcourt violation call decision, I'm going to. And the best way to do that, we have the violation in the backcourt. Get that 3-foot designated spot in the backcourt. So it's the spot nearest the violation. Front court, minus out of bounds. You have 4 spots. All right, 28-foot line and just 3 feet outside the lane line. We want to be very consistent with this because we covered this last week. Is it an advantage to get an inbounds here or sideline? Yeah, underneath, you're closer to the basket. Is it an advantage to most teams to have it on the right side or left side? Right side. Most players are right-hand dominant. All right, so if the violation truly happens on this side, even though you're the lead on this side, switch. Please switch for those players. That makes a difference. All right, that will make a difference. And we don't want to bounce it across because on the baseline we hand it in. All right, we hand it in on the baseline. The other difference that comes into play is this semicircle. High school, a violation in that semicircle goes down to the baseline. All right, so if you truly have a free throw violation displacing the shooter, all right, well, actually, they're going to get another shot if they miss it. Never mind, forget that one. All right, so violation here, all right, we are going to take it down to the baseline. Any questions on the 4 designated spots? This was new last year. Pretty easy change. I think it made it easier. And then the exception out of bounds, wherever that ball goes out of bounds, that's where it is. You put that ball where it went out of bounds. Signals before we play a little video. So this is a signal for the delay on free throws. Or, we didn't go over the player going out of bounds. So this is where you are going to blow your whistle. You just can't do it right away. It's a potential violation if they miss the free throw. It's a potential violation if an out-of-bounds player is the first one to touch the ball. All right, that's the delay. Traveling, all right. Some people do this. I don't get that. Some people have it up here. I don't get that. Is it a dance move? Okay. So if you're doing it to get noticed, don't do that. Just be normal.
An out of bounds player can be the first one to touch the ball if he went out of bounds because of momentum.
Correct. Yep. It's got to be intentional.
It's got to be intentional.
Yep. So travel, illegal dribble. All right. If they do truly palm it, palming is just the same thing as an illegal dribble. I avoid the palming. I tell coach they stop their dribble, they dribbled again. Illegal dribble. But that, if you want to call palming, that's the palming. Don't get that confused with over and back. All right, so over and back is more dramatic outside your body frame. 3-second violation is that 3-second swoop. If you could do that before they catch it, awesome. Do you have to do this for 3 seconds?
No.
Please don't do that. All right, that's 5 seconds, 10 seconds. All right, 3 seconds is all up in your brain. 5 seconds. So violation, 5. Violation, 10. All right, make sure we stop the clock first. Don't go straight, boop, 5 seconds. Stop the clock and then give the violation. Excessive swinging and then intentionally kicking the ball. I know we didn't put it, kicking up there, just a touch on it. If the ball gets passed off my leg, is that kicking? No. It's got to be the leg went and contact the ball. So if that leg stays in contact with the floor, more than likely it was passed off the leg, and you have to be able to explain that to the coach. It did contact the leg, coach, but it did not intentionally kick the ball. The ball hit the leg. All right. The 7:20. Huddle. This is a random game nowhere near Omaha, Nebraska. So if this does get to the officials working the game, you were randomly picked, and I apologize. As we're playing this video, we're just going to point out the violations. Okay, so we're not looking at perfect. Everyone see what the jumper did there? All right, so one went for it. See how he's still in the circle? Completely legal. All right, so that is legal to back away. It's legal not to jump for it as long as they keep their feet in the circle. Which foot's their pivot foot? Left, awesome. Pivot, good. Which foot's their pivot foot? All right, has not established yet, good. Did they illegally dribble it? Nope, only one dribble with 2 hands. Legal. Do we have 3 seconds on that player? No, shot went off. Look how many violation judgments there were in the first 10 seconds of the game. It is non-stop. Or 17 seconds. Are they closely guarded? Yes. Are they still closely guarded? All right. Do we have a count started yet? All right. That's on that second one. Like, we need a count started by now. Now we need a count started. Yep. What status do we still have here? Backcourt status. Now we're in the front court. Okay. Was that intentionally dribbled? All right, so let's rewind it. Here we go. So the first one, I'll give him the muff on the first one. But then he pushed it down to get control of it. That is one dribble. He has stopped his dribble. I will tell a player, you don't have your dribble. I will prevent that violation. And if that coach doesn't like it, guess what I'm going to tell that coach? I'm going to do the same thing for your players too. All right, so when we talk about violations, no cheap turnovers, no cheap loss of possession, this is something we could prevent. Let's do it. All right, let's keep that game flow going. Ball out of bounds yet? Nope. It can roll on top of the rectangle backboard. It did not hit the support. If it hits the shot clock is out of bounds. When properly on, it should be recessed. It should be behind the backboard. I know, I love those. Which foot's the pivot foot? Left foot, excellent. Ooh, out of bounds or not out of bounds? This is why I think these are so freaking tough. Because our eyes have to be in two places at one time. Yeah, try to get that right. Is he traveling? Does he have control of the ball? Does he touch the ball? Is his foot on the line? So technically, this is out of bounds. He is touching on or outside the boundary line while in contact with the ball. This is why I think out of bounds is by far the toughest one. Now let's learn from this though. How can we improve our accuracy to get this correct? So when that shot goes up, get wider. If you could get wider or deeper, you could get deeper. Whatever you could do to give yourself space to see more, it's going to help you. No. So when we're talking about, I'd probably be guessing. I'm not gonna get involved with that one. Two. Did that leg contact the ball? All right, but that is exactly what we're looking for to have intentionally kicked, is that leg was lifted towards the basketball. I don't think it does change the direction of it. Ball's live and in play. What count do we have here? 10 second. All right, we do not have 5 second closely guarded. Now we'll have 5 second closely guarded. We'll watch about another minute, and we're only looking at potential violations. Oh, go back here. High school rule. Would you guys say this defender's within 5 or 6 feet? Okay, I'm going to go back to where it should start. Are we within 6 feet? All right, so we're 522. Are we still within 6 feet? In high school basketball, we are, even though they switch defenders. As long as a player of the opponent remains within 6 feet, that count continues. Now, why is the count done? Head and shoulders past. All right, this is a weird situation, though, isn't it? Which official started responsible for this count? Trail. So when this count continues right here, had that trail been counting, you're continuing that count, but you're not calling fouls. All right? But you still have to continue that count. So when it comes to 5 second closely guarded, even though they switch, it is 5 seconds, 6 feet, same teammates. And then now that's when it's over. So we went from 522 to 517. When in doubt, what do we have with 5 second closely guarded? It is not. Okay, when in doubt, it is not. We're looking for 6 seconds to come off that game clock if we're going to have 5 second closely guarded if you're watching game film on yourself. Which foot's the pivot foot right now? All right. So let's go back. Would you agree that I would call this 2-foot jump stop? So either foot. All right, those are the tough ones. And again, that's what you want to, when you're watching film, if you feel like you struggle at out of bounds, really, that's how you get better at it, right there. Gather feet. Left foot, either foot, right foot. And so, great question. So, since you're going to see it here, they have it inbounded. Did I miss it already? Oh, we'll get to it because we'll talk about the mechanic here, 3-person. All right, here's the drive. Either foot, jump, tap, tap. Who's it out of bounds on? Okay, so they're calling it sideline out of bounds. So since it's sideline, that's why they're bouncing it. And since it's a sideline out of bounds, it's going to be that trail doing the chop and count. Cool. All right. So that was 3 minutes and 19 seconds. Probably an easy 30 to 40 judgment calls. That's what makes basketball, I think, difficult. Is it is nonstop judgment. And we just were doing violations today. We weren't even looking at contact. All right. So if you are a new official, find a basketball game on YouTube, find a basketball game somewhere to go watch, and literally practice in your head what you would call in all those situations, all those moments. And your head will be spinning, I promise you. But as you get more experience, the game will slow down and you'll start anticipating what you're going to have to call. Travel, no travel. Illegal dribble, no illegal dribble. So our final thoughts, we need to know when we put ear in the whistle, no different than a foul. So when in doubt it's 3 seconds, it is not. When in doubt it's 5 seconds, it is not. When in doubt it's a travel, it is not. Violations interrupt the game. If you don't know, do not put ear in the whistle. If you can't explain it, don't call it. Take your no call before your incorrect call. So when we talk about knowledge, no call it. You're working with the veteran official, ask for advice. Learn the knowledge so when you experience it again. Be consistent through terminology of why it's a violation. We gave you a lot of terminology words here today, so when you give judgment to coaches, use it. If we're using the same terminology, it's going to help all of us. Clear, concise signals, all right, communication, calls. Make sure everybody knows it's a travel. Make sure everybody knows it's an illegal dribble. Make sure everybody knows it's an elbow violation, all right? Not close fists, then violation. Because what does that signal to coaches? When you go boom, boom, foul, switch to violation. The foul happened before the travel, Sean. That's why you went up with the fist. I caused the unsporting behavior. Okay, so have clear, concise communication. Practice more than coaches and players. Again, watch games. Call the game in your head. Call the game in front of a mirror. It's practice, practice, practice. This is my NSAA reminder. New officials. Even if you don't want to work varsity, why should you register with the NSAA? Probably the most important thing is rule books. Anyone know how much a rule book costs if you go to nfhs.org? $14.99 is it up to these days? I was going to say $12.95. Wow. You get 3 rule books, case books, mechanics manual for $10. All right? Buy 1, get 2 free. Not that bad of a deal. And then if you start working and all of a sudden, dang, I'm good. Now you're available. All right? Throw you out there. Returning officials. Online meeting is available. Came available October 28th. There is no sound. So don't be turning up your volume on your computer. It's okay. There is no sound. It's 14 minutes. Make sure you click finish to get credit for it. So those are the 2 things officials forget to do. NS open book test. All right, it is open right now. November 14th is a Thursday. Is that correct? Okay. November 14th, we will be live at Tanner's and YouTube Live, and we will go over the 50-question test. All right, so November 14th is when we're going to go over it as a collective group. Hopefully you're available. I didn't even ask you. Sorry. Varsity officials, please enter schedules and keep updated. The observers are already making their schedules of where they can watch their list of officials at. All right, and when we say keep it updated, I will tell you my schedule is probably going to change 30 times. All right, every time it changes, I update my schedule. The last thing I want on my little resume in John Dolliver's head is an observer showed up to watch Sean work. Sean was not at that gym. Communication, professionalism. All right, so varsity officials, if you have varsity games, put them in your schedule. Observers are already making their schedule. And then the last one is, I don't know if this is open yet. Is postseason applications open? Has anyone been in there? It is open. And again, keep that updated. All right, so I'm a baseball umpire. Right now, I'm available for everything. If I get a baseball weekend series, I got to go in and block weekends. All right, so keep that updated as well if you're looking for varsity postseason. So it was asked to me today, training. We'll talk number 2. If you are a new official and you have not completed on-court training and you want to, this Friday through Sunday in Bellevue, next Friday through Sunday in Millard, the following Friday through Sunday in Millard as well. All I need is an email, 2-hour time frame you could work. I will find a veteran official to put you with. Okay? Varsity. We did 2 already. We have 2 more coming up. If you are not on varsity games and you want varsity games, this is for you. I got the question, well, I'm not ready for varsity games, but I want to learn 3-person. This is for you. Could anyone give advice? What's the best way to learn 3-person?
Yeah.
Work it. All right. Well, there's not opportunities to do it. Unfortunately, there's a lot of volunteer opportunities to do it. I volunteered 100 games and didn't get paid for one single one with intramural sports. That's how I learned three-person. I volunteered. Okay, so if you are looking for three-person experience, our tryouts are a great place to do it. You're with a veteran official, and there's an official watching you work. All right, it's great experience. And then the last one is next Tuesday, November 5th. We have 12 signed up, so we have room for 28 more. We are looking for what we're calling captains. We are going to teach what is average, what is good, what is great. Like as a person watching officials, we will teach you what is average, what is good, what is great. We are going to teach you how to help officials get from average to good, good to great. That is what this course is for. All right, it's teach the teacher of when you're working with other officials, when you show up to a site early and you see 4 other officials working, you have the information to make an impact and change in officials. That is what we're looking for with this captain's course. We are looking for people who want to observe, teach, and help others. If you want to do that, please contact me. All right, we're going to put you in the course, and we'll figure everything else out after that. Is anybody in this room right now not on self-assign? All right, so Scott, you're going to get it after this weekend because you're going to complete the on-court training. Please sign this sheet because I try to have a reward. If you are on YouTube, please type in your name on YouTube so we know that you watched the video. If you're watching the video tomorrow, please text me or email me that you watched the video. That way, if you don't have self-assign, you could get self-assign. All right, so people ask, how do I get self-assign? Uniform, trained, joined, you at least watched practice. You at least watched it. Good deal? All right. You're only as good as your last call. So make your last one your best one. Thank you for joining. I'm going to put this up here.